Have you ever wondered why some people seem to move closer to financial freedom every year, while others stay stuck in exactly the same place? Most people immediately blame their salary, their education, the economy, or simple bad luck. And while those things certainly matter, they are rarely the real reason. The biggest obstacle between you and wealth might be something you've carried with you your entire life: your own brain. That may sound strange, but your brain was never designed to make you rich. It wasn't built to help you invest wisely, build businesses, or think decades into the future. It evolved for one purpose: survival. Thousands of years ago, survival meant finding food, avoiding danger, conserving energy, and taking the safest path possible. The people who survived were not necessarily the smartest. They were the ones who avoided unnecessary risks and focused on staying alive one more day. The problem is that your brain still operates using many of those same ancient rules, even though the world has completely changed. Today, you're probably not running away from predators or searching for your next meal. But your brain doesn't know that. It still pushes you toward whatever feels safe, comfortable, and immediately rewarding. That's why staying inside your comfort zone feels so natural. That's why procrastination feels easier than taking action. That's why spending money today often feels better than investing it for tomorrow. Your brain isn't trying to make you poor. It's trying to keep you safe. And sometimes, those two goals are completely different. Think about the last time you had an opportunity to do something difficult. Maybe starting a business, learning a new skill, investing your money, or applying for a better job. What happened inside your mind? You probably heard a voice saying things like, "What if I fail? What if I lose money? What if I'm not good enough?" Those thoughts don't appear by accident. They're your brain trying to protect you from uncertainty. From its perspective, uncertainty equals danger, even if taking that risk could completely change your future. This explains why so many people stay in jobs they hate, postpone their dreams, or avoid making important financial decisions. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because their brain prefers a familiar struggle over an unfamiliar possibility. And that's one of the biggest psychological traps you'll ever face. Your brain would rather repeat yesterday than risk creating a better tomorrow. The good news is that once you understand this mechanism, you stop blaming yourself. Instead of thinking, "I'm just bad with money," you begin asking a much more powerful question: what is my brain trying to protect me from? That single question changes everything. The truth is that your brain loves shortcuts. Thinking carefully requires energy, and your brain is constantly trying to conserve that energy whenever possible. That's why habits become so powerful. Every decision you repeat slowly becomes automatic. You no longer have to think about it. You simply do it. This is helpful when building good habits, but it's incredibly dangerous when the habits are working against you. Imagine someone who checks online stores every evening before going to bed. At first, it's a conscious choice, but after repeating it hundreds of times, it becomes automatic. The brain no longer asks, "Do I need this?" It only follows the familiar routine. The same thing happens with impulse spending, procrastination, and even the excuses we tell ourselves. Over time, these behaviors become mental shortcuts that quietly shape our future. Another powerful force is immediate gratification. Your brain naturally values rewards it can receive today much more than rewards that may come months or years later. That's why buying something new feels exciting, while saving or investing often feels boring. The reward is delayed, and your brain isn't naturally patient. This is one of the biggest differences between people who build wealth and those who don't. Wealthy people aren't simply better with money. They've learned to delay gratification. They've trained themselves to sacrifice small pleasures today in exchange for much greater rewards tomorrow. Your brain doesn't like that. It wants comfort. It wants certainty. It wants results immediately. That's why starting a business feels uncomfortable. Learning new skills feels difficult. Investing feels risky. Saving money feels slow. None of these things provide instant rewards, but almost all of them create long-term success. Your brain also has another habit that quietly keeps people stuck. It constantly searches for evidence that confirms what you already believe. If you believe that becoming wealthy is impossible, your brain will notice every story of failure while ignoring countless stories of success. If you believe you're just not good with money, every financial mistake becomes proof that you're right. This creates an invisible prison where your own beliefs become the limits of your future. The good news is that your brain is not fixed. It changes throughout your entire life. Scientists call this neuroplasticity. Every new habit, every new skill, and every repeated action creates new neural pathways. In other words, the more you practice better financial decisions, the more natural they become. The same brain that learned fear can learn confidence. The same brain that created bad habits can create better ones. And that realization is incredibly powerful because it means your future isn't controlled by your past. It's shaped by the decisions you continue to repeat every single day. So, how do you actually change your brain? The answer isn't through motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, and other days you'll feel like doing nothing. If you depend on motivation, you'll eventually return to old habits. Real change comes from repetition. Every time you choose to save instead of spending impulsively, you're teaching your brain a new pattern. Every time you invest instead of chasing instant pleasure, you're strengthening a different neural pathway. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, your brain slowly adapts. At first, these decisions feel difficult because they're unfamiliar. But with enough repetition, they become automatic. The same brain that once resisted growth begins to expect it. That's how lasting change happens. The people who achieve financial freedom aren't born with a different brain. They simply train it differently. They understand that success isn't the result of one perfect decision. It's the result of thousands of small decisions repeated over months and years. Reading one more page instead of scrolling social media. Learning one new skill instead of watching another hour of entertainment. Saving a little more instead of spending a little more. These actions seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they completely transform a person's life. Imagine two people making almost identical choices every day. The difference between them is tiny. One spends a little more, procrastinates a little longer, and avoids a little more discomfort. The other saves a little more, learns a little more, and pushes through discomfort just a little more often. After one day, there's almost no difference. After 1 month, it's still hard to notice. But after 5 years, their lives look completely different. Not because one person was luckier, but because small habits compound into extraordinary results. Your brain will always try to pull you toward what's familiar, comfortable, and easy. That instinct will never completely disappear. But you don't have to obey every thought your brain produces. You can question it. You can challenge it. You can choose a different response. That's where real freedom begins. The moment you stop reacting automatically and start making conscious decisions, you begin taking control of your future. The greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in the stock market, real estate, or even a business. It's in your own mind. Because every financial decision begins there. Change the way you think, and you'll slowly change the way you act. Change the way you act, and you'll change your habits. Change your habits, and you'll change your future. Your brain was designed to keep you alive, not to make you wealthy. But once you understand how it works, you can stop being controlled by old survival instincts and start building a life based on intention instead of impulse. In the end, wealth doesn't begin in your wallet. It begins in your mind. And the moment you train your mind to work for you instead of against you, everything else starts to change.